Guess who's back? Back again. Yes, welcome to NUFC Talk
Oh,
TV on this beautiful Tuesday evening. And boy, it wouldn't be Newcastle if there wasn't a shitstorm. And there's certainly something brewing in the background. But before we get into tonight's panel and everything else, let's do the housework so we can just get that out of the way and then we can crack on with the show. Welcome to everybody that watches across all of the platforms. Thanks to everybody that works in the background. Don't forget to hit that like button for us if you enjoy the show. It just helps us get further as a channel to other supporters. Subscribe, it's totally free. Bang the bell button for us because obviously we're going to be virtually on every day. Well, we are on every day, but we will be jumping on board as soon as there's some news coming our way. And I'm hoping it's soon. If you want to help us grow, then you can become a member, small monthly fee, different ones to choose from. Take your choice. And obviously, once you become a member, you can obviously jump on board with our prediction league, where we get to predict the scores of all of the Premier League matches. And at the end of it, you get financial reward if you become part of the top six. If you've got a question from myself or either of the panel tonight, then put a Q in front of it. But it ain't guaranteed to be mentioned. So if you want to guarantee it, use the $sign, and then that massage. It's because I've seen Win. He's in Chinatown. That message will be read out. All new members and all of our beautiful members that gift memberships will be highlighted and thanked. There you go. That's the housework done. Boki, Jamie, and the mighty Win is in the house. We may have DX with us as well, joining us a bit later. So welcome one and all.
all right.
We're on Tuesday. Still no signings. But there's obviously lots of rumours, as we've always said. And it was I wanted to start tonight with an interesting one from...
Is his Win going to Thailand again? I've heard that it's bouncing around the bars at Gosford, yeah.
Is all these rumours? I mean, obviously the YouTube videos now that have come out, Keith Downing, is more or less saying that potentially all these rumours are smokescreens. What's your views on his thoughts? I mean, obviously we go back in history, and as we've said previously, a lot of what you read isn't the people that come through the door. Boki, any truth behind what Downey's saying? You believe it or believe it not?
Would you ever argue with Sky Sports? Potentially. I mean, it's probably good business if they do put smoke screens up. But I mean, there's got to be some truth. A lot of these players have been rumoured to be coming for a long time. There's got to have been some truth in it, and I think part of the problem is that we just haven't got them over the line, isn't it? So I think there's probably some truth in it, but I don't think that we have been interested in quite a lot of these players and just haven't got them or haven't been able to get the deals over the line.
I mean, I don't believe. I can't understand how the North.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. No problem, mate.
Very rude.
I don't understand how you get Italian journals, German journals, hear all about these rumours before the Northeast journals. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong. All I'm saying to you is it just seems very strange. We're getting more information from the European market than we are from the Northeast lads who seem to have the finger on the pulse most of the time. Jamie, your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, if Pata was Pata, they'd all have their own chippies, wouldn't it? I think the signings that would be linked with, I don't think the smoke screens. I think Trafford will be here any day now. I'm certain we're in for João Pedro. And I think we've inquired about Elanga, but it's a case of, are we pursuing that? I think what maybe, and I don't know if this is what Keith was trying to say, there's maybe signings out there that nobody knows about and nobody is going to know about until they're as good as signed for Newcastle, because that was the case with Tenali. That was, if you go right back, that was the case with Bruno. I think probably the only signing that has really been sort of telegraphed for a long time was Botman when we chased him in January and he decided to stay at Lille for the Champions League, and then he came in the summer. But all the others, easy. They all just sort of came all of a sudden, even after we'd been linked in with other people. If you remember getting linked with like a Tiki all summer,
Yeah,
he went to PSG and then we got Isaac. So I think there hopefully will be some nice surprises, names that we haven't been linked with who come. But I don't know if we're putting smoke screens up. Just pretending to buy Anthony Elanga is probably a little bit of a risk, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, I agree. I think there's certainly individuals that, you know, as you say about Pedro, I think that was legit. And you know, with all the talk about why aren't we acting and everything else, and like I said to the lads last night, I believe that, you know, Eddie's got a price in his head, very similar to how he went with Gay, and he's not going to move from that. And the unfortunate thing about it, when you get into a bit of a lottery with a club that's got a lot more financial clout than we are, they're always going to they're always happy at Chelsea. I'm talking about now. They're always going to be happy at throwing money at dead ends. You know, you look at the money they've spent, 49 players within the team. That's a headache for any coach. You know, it doesn't matter how good the player is. You've got to try and get them 49 players.
Yeah.
One, you've got to make them happy. And I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm sure Pedro on a 7-year contract will be happy to sit on the bench or even not part of the team because he's getting paid on a weekly basis for doing absolutely diddly squat. So I'm not sure whether, you know, Chelsea have got the right mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, talk on the street now is they're going in for Garnacho.
I was saying today, I went to 3 Chelsea games last year, home, away, in the League Cup, and I still couldn't tell you who their starting 11 is. I think
I
the
don't
only
think
two I
Maresca
would
knows.
absolutely say start in the best team is Palmer and Caicedo. And other than that, they seem to move around so much that it's never going to come off for them. And long may that continue because we kind of want them out of the way a little bit.
Yeah. Mighty win. Here he
Hello.
is.
Well, you're going to have to bring me right up to date because I've been completely out of circulation today.
Right.
Been busy doing other stuff, and so I haven't kept track at all. In fact, I dived in. I forgot it was 9 o'clock instead of 9:30, which it used to be, of course. And I thought, wow.
Well, Derek,
Cool.
we've got
So,
25
in the
million
words
for
of
Callum
in the
Wilson.
words of Tiger, have we signed anybody yet?
Well, yes, we have, but it's for the academy. I mean, listen. I mean, Craig Downey's put out there, you know, about the potential coming on board of players. There is obviously work going on behind the scenes, but the way he spoke about it in his YouTube video was the fact that a lot of the rumours out there could be potentially smoke screens. Not saying that all of them are, and like I said, we've just been talking about Pedro, and there's been, like I say, there has been some contact with a few players locally, obviously Premier proven players. But as we said yesterday, you know, it seems as if what Eddie's got, and again, we don't really know how much Eddie's got to play with within this window.
And this is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. And it seems as if, like
everybody is speculating. You know, you've just done a bit of speculation yourself at the start there about how Eddie's got a price, and nobody knows that.
Can I just stop on that one then? Because do you not find it strange if Eddie looks at these players, and these are players that he's earmarked 24 months ago, right? So obviously we wanted Pedro from Watford, so he knew the player from there. That was the type of player that he wanted at Newcastle. If we had the money, the same as Chelsea had, if my theory is wrong, why didn't he up the ante when the opportunity was there, rather than sitting for 2 weeks with just a £50 million on the shelf?
Because is there somebody else in the background that we know nothing about saying, no, that's the price that our team or whatever have put on him, and that's as far as we're going?
Well, that's what I'm saying. When I say Eddie, I don't mean Eddie per se. I mean, you know, this is Eddie's benchmark.
Well, no, because this is the popular misconception, I think, because I think Eddie knows who he needs, he knows who he wants, presumably, and if he turn around and says, look, I want him Buemo, and if he costs 80 million, pay 80 million, but somebody up ahead has said, we're not paying 80 million for Mbeumo, we're not paying 70 million for Joe Pedro, we're not paying 60 million for Elanga.
That's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
we're not paying 30 million for Trafford.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
because the money is definitely there.
yeah, well, I saw earlier. I'm going to go on to Trafford in a second because I don't know whether anybody else saw it. Because literally, as soon as it hit the mark, I got a notification. I'm not going to tell you the source, but as soon as it hit the mark, it came back. It was deleted. So I don't know whether there's a spanner in the works on that one as well. So I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But you like I said, I'm saying Eddie Howe, and you're absolutely right. I'm not saying it's Eddie Howe's words. I'm saying that within this book of finances, whoever is putting a price next to these said players, they've all got a ceiling. And I said to the lads yesterday about, when you look at this ceiling, why has it taken 2 weeks for us to get a non-decision from Joe Pedro? Well, it took Chelsea something like 72 hours to get the deal done because they just threw the money down, 58 million and 12 million add-ons. And literally, Joe Pedro, 7-year contract. I mean, as a player, you're not going to turn that down. Coming back to London, where he enjoys anyway, where his family know very well from his Watford days. So, when you look at it all, it stacks up. And like I said to the lads, if he's put £50 million down, it doesn't mean that he's been waiting for them to say yes or no. There's our bid. We'll do our work. We'll continue to work in the background, looking elsewhere. But that's the bid that's on the table for this said player. That's the way I was looking at it because it
But I
seemed.
think
I
Sorry,
you've
think
Jacob.
got a thing, haven't you, where like those bids went in and they might have evolved more, they might have had more a higher bid, they might have been willing to go higher. But as soon as you see Man United were in for Mbeumo, and as soon as you see Pedro Chelsea were in for Pedro, that's it, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
if they
gone.
want to go there, they can give more wages. So I think it's a flexible amount. You don't go in and offer silly money straight away, and maybe they are lowballing a bit too much. But it was the involvement of those other clubs that stopped those transfers going any further, rather than any sort of ceiling that we wouldn't go beyond. The
Yeah.
unfortunate thing is, we kind of need to get a signing over the line before Chelsea decide to buy him for the infinite squad, don't we? Or someone like them.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people now on social media now talking about the Asula and Ilanga dance that's going on. I don't know whether that's a little bit of again, us expecting Ilanga to come on board. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, the first bid was 45 million, I believe it was, and obviously. Forest wants 60 because they've got a 20% clause that goes back to Man U. So I think we've put a second bid in now at 50. Do you think that's the ceiling? Because I even think that's too much for Elanga.
Yeah,
I think
I
at
do.
some point we do have to break the bank to get a player that we want, rather than just pissing about with this whole, low ball in every club. And yeah, it is way too much for him. But if that's who Eddie wants, and that's who he thinks will improve that right hand side, then I think you do just have to say, look, we'll pay it. On this occasion, we will pay it.
Mm.
Um, it goes against the grain of everything that you would think about, but we're going to have to. But there's just no way we can keep going like this, where we're trying to lowball clubs, and other clubs are thinking, oh well, if Newcastle want them, we'll go in and buy them at the right price that they're worth, or a little bit more in Chelsea's case.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it seems strange that, like, obviously January we heard about Elanga, didn't we? There was that
yeah,
the 11th hour bid that went in there because other things fell down. Um, I've again, I don't want to say because it sounds like I'm an ITK, and I don't want to sound like an ITK. There is rumour that Morgan Gibbs White from Forest is a potential as the number 10
Hmm.
if the Elanga deal doesn't come off. But the way I look at this now is if we don't get Elanga for 50, and again, I think that's too much, they're not going to sell bloody Morgan's Gibbs White for any less than 60, are they? So are we just
Well,
pissing
Man City were quoted 80 for him.
80, was it?
Man City were quoted 80 for MGW, aye.
Wow, there you go.
What's
I
his
cannot.
contract length?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it, mate.
Martin from the Mancunian Way was telling us that.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's what I said. There's no way we're going to reach them numbers if we haven't got the coffers, to go and pick out these all these players that we require to build for a squad to go Champions League. Surely.
Is there any worry that sort of PIF are losing interest in when that's why we're not buying players? We're looking like it's very much like a Mike Ashley window again, in that we're sort of looking to buy to these players.
I certainly wouldn't go that far at all. I mean, it's the 1st of July.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got plenty time to sign players.
This is 3 windows in, though, that we haven't signed anybody.
Yeah, but we know why we didn't sign them in the last windows, because we'd overspent massively to get us out of the mire and to do what we did, get us in the Champions League and get us the squad that we've got now.
But I think
so we know why, but we equally know now that we have got money. The accounts, everything proves that we've got money now, so that there is no excuse now not to spend significantly, and I'm including on wages, because we know if we want to be at that top table, we've got to start paying top table money, and that's just a fact of life. Now that's up to to Sylvester and his crew to start getting the money in. And but I don't know, or Piff maybe saying, look, we've bailed you out a degree, you've got the Seller money, you've got the Noon money, we've got that money there, but how's about trying to, let's see what we're really worth, let's try and get some proper independent sponsors in and see how much that money's worth. And then we can decide as an entity, as PIF, is this a project that's worth development? Can we actually take it where we thought we might be able to take it? Given all of the handcuffs that have been put on us from day one. And I think it's a very valid question to ask. Have they lost interest? The stadium, which is going to be like a bit, you're talking about massive investment there. That seems to be the can's being kicked further and further down the road. And I think that there are worrying signs to me that is the case. Because if everybody else can spend money hand over fist, why can we not? Given what we've achieved in the last 3 years and the potential that they can obviously see is there. There's something not adding up somewhere along the line. However, whilst I think it's an absolute, it's probably one of the most critical seasons in our history coming up. And if we enter that season without having put the correct investment in for to take a chance on Eddie being able to work his miracles again, given the competition that's out there now, I think it's suicide personally. And I think now was the time to be pushing the boat out, and if we've got to pay 80 million for a £60 million player, pay it.
There's no chance we go through this summer without adding 3 or 4 players. I think it's just getting it right. I mean,
I agree entirely with that, Jamie. We've got to get it right. All this business, just saying somebody is getting on my tits. It's got to be. They've got to be the right somebodies.
Oh, absolutely.
But just getting a certain number of players in, if they are not of a high enough caliber to improve the team, because we're going to need to improve this season to stop in the Champions League. Make no mistake about that. Everybody else is improving. Although you wouldn't think it to look at Man City this morning. But, if you tell me they've spent 400 million and look what's happened to them. But there again, there's another thing. You see, you got the Arabs beating Man City yesterday in the Club World Cup. Maybe they think, hey, look, if we are going to put this sort of money in, let's do it in Arabia.
Do you think
I'll always be that priority their own country.
Do you think maybe as well, instead of trying to sign so many players, one of those players instead will pay up the wages of the players we've got and up the wages of players that are coming in, which makes them more viable to a club.
Viable.
So instead of signing 5 players, do us try to sign 4 players, but then use the rest of that money to increase the likes of Isaac's money, who deserves it, and the rest of the players, and any new player that you bring in, then you can put on a bigger wage.
Yeah. Well, let's just, as we're talking about players, because obviously we're going to move on to another topic in a second. Let's have a look at some of the starred ones. I've done a couple as we go. Travoy Stevens, don't want Elliott. Go and get Xavi Simons. What the hell are we doing in this window?
Oh.
Well, apparently Xavi Simons, and this has come from his camp apparently, that he's not interested in coming to the Northeast. So again, I don't know whether that's just a rumour, some BS that's just trying to cover the potential move. I don't know, but that's apparently what's coming out of Xavi Simons' camp. He doesn't want to come to the Northeast. He wants to come to the Premier League.
I think he's better than Elanga. It's one of those things. You've got to see, like, to me, he seems a better player than Elanga. But you've got to trust if Howe thinks Elanga's a better fit or whoever on that right side. But we're going to need to spend big on someone out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Aaron Keynes, Eddie is right with the club, but the right is not overpaying for players. This is the current market, and if we overpay, we will have PSR issues down the line. Well, it's also the fact that you're opening the door for every other player that you go to have this Newcastle tax, if you like. So I do think that's a potential coming back to us. So thanks for that one, Aaron. And John Noble has put in... when are we going to spend the money from selling Anderson, Minte, Miggy and Kelly? Well, there ain't no money in there for them. It was literally just to cover us with PSR.
Miggy and Kelly's there.
Miggy and Kelly's there, but that's only 30 million. You're not going to get a lot for 30 million.
You buy £150 million or £120 million player plus his wages over 5 years.
Over 5 years, yeah. But again, we're talking about... that's just what I said. When you look at amortization, like I said, Chelsea are one that just keep kicking the can down the road. There's obviously something that stops us from throwing that 30 million towards somebody else, as you say, over the 5-year term. Are we also Adidas at the stack money? Finally, why haven't we got a stadium or training ground sponsorship deals? I mean, this is what Boki was saying, and this is where I think a lot of fans, because we have come to a little bit of a bottleneck when it comes to information and news from the club. Everything just seems to be putting back. And obviously what we all do then is speculate, because none of us have the information. None of us know the stuff. And we just get frustrated as fans because we don't see momentum. And then obviously, as Wynne has said, this is for us, it potentially is the start of our window, the 1st of July, because obviously we're clear of the loss of the 73 million at the start. So it does give us a little bit of headroom, but it does get frustrating, and I appreciate the reasons why fans get upset.
But it's also interesting, by the way, that there was no fire sales anywhere.
No,
on the 30th of June. That we faced, and everybody.
I seen one at Parker and Stonehouse.
Yeah,
but everybody was saying Villa were going to have to sell before 1st of July, and they haven't.
Now, Lupol was selling the women's team, though, mate.
Sell 55 million.
Oh, has Villa done that as well, have they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. See, selling Duran and selling the women's team has got them above the mark. So it's like I said.
this is the tactic that we need them, because you can put as much money as you want into your women's team, and it
Yeah.
doesn't affect your PSR rating. So theoretically, the Premier League's already voted not to close that loophole. But
No.
our women's team isn't worth much because they're in the Championship.
Yeah.
So they need to invest heavily in getting a Championship winning team, get them to the Women's Super League, get a couple of sponsors on board, and then
Sell it.
sell them to Black and White
Exactly
Horses or
what
whoever it
Balky
is.
was saying yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We need to invest heavily in another area where we can
I
recoup
said it with
money.
more put now.
But again, then what you're relying on is that PIF are actually prepared to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when with that, you don't even have to. As soon as we get in the Premier League with the women's team, you don't even have to prove anything. All you have to say is 25 years down the line, it's going to be as successful as the men's team.
Exactly.
This is exactly what Chelsea and Villa have
Chelsea
done.
do. Exactly.
It'll be as successful as the men's
I
team.
mean, I don't know how much you know, but Chelsea have speculated the £200 million for 25 years' time. You know, Villa, I think, has been more fair market
Well,
value.
it was,
with
to
the
be fair,
55
it was a
million.
10% interest, and Chelsea won it. That was somebody bought a 10% interest for 20 million or something.
200 million.
No, on the basis that they were going to be worth 200 million.
200 million.
That
Yeah.
20 million would be worth 200 million in 10 years' time.
So yeah,
I thought you were Chief Happy Clapper anyway. The right way, wet blanket, nice. Oh, the PIF are losing interest. Oh.
No, but the
got
reason I
turned
say
away everywhere I went in
the,
Bangkok.
the reason I say that is purely because we're penny pinching when I don't think we need to be penny pinching.
Yeah.
You know, I
Interesting.
think the money's there. Yes, we're going to have to amortise it to stay within PSR rules, but so what? You know, if it means giving players 7-year, we give Gordon a 6-year contract. That's standing in pretty good stead now because it means nobody can come and get him. Same with Chelsea, with Palmer. And Palmer's stuck on 100 grand a week for, you know, what's his 8 years, his contract. And he's on 100 grand a week for 8 years. Not that we know what'll happen if, you know, he'd be wanting more. But that's where we are with Isaac. You know, he's still on 120 a week, even though we know he's worth 250 min. So again, that deal needs doing to protect our interest, and it hasn't been done.
But again, should this have been done before the end of the season?
Well, this is my point. This is why all the signs I'm seeing are suggesting nothing to do with anything else about the club, but simply that PIF would appear to be not as forthcoming with funds as we perhaps think they are, or thought they were.
I think you've got to play devil's advocate, right? And I know, like, patience is difficult when we've had these 3 windows. If we went out and threw down 60 million for Anthony Elanga, and if we had it thrown down 70 million for João Pedro, if you remember, the Isaac deal went through a couple of years ago because Real Sociedad were in a position where they were ready to sell him for 60 million towards the end of the window. If we get to August, and I don't really want to get to August to make the signings, but if you get there and someone of Isaac's level becomes available for 50, 60 million, and we've blown the budget, you'll see that's bad. You don't want to just go in there and do it all. You want to do the art of the deal, you know, do it no ball a couple of times.
That's my man.
You don't know. The unfortunate thing is we won't know until it's done. If we come out this summer with another Tenali, another Isaac, and another Botman, everyone's going to be happy, even if we haven't heard of them, don't know much about them now.
Completely agree.
But in the here and now, I think it's justified to have concerns because of the length of time, because we've lost out on a couple of players. But really, you've got to reserve judgment and trust that they know what they're doing as they did in 22 and 23.
But I think part of the
Yeah.
problem, Jamie, is that Eddie was so insistent that he wanted somebody in. He wanted his signings early, that he sort of set the fans' expectations up that there was going to be quick early signings, and there's been none of that basically so far.
Yeah, you want them in for pre-season ideally, and we've got like a week for that. I don't know when the internationals come back. The bulk of them come back on Monday, but oh, here he is, late as ever.
Hey, up
But
DCL.
Bonjour, bonjour.
you come with
Bonjour.
dealers, don't you?
Bonjour.
Hello.
Ça va?
Yeah, ça va. Et tu? Anyway, Steve, are you with us or what? All I've got is an arm.
His bicep, his
Yeah.
biceps with
I'll
us.
tell you what, I'm going to remove you, and then you can come back on in a second, dude.
It's the new kit anyway.
DCL, how are you, buddy? You happy?
Rex. I just put DCL as my thing because he's
Yeah.
been for us. Yeah, I'm good actually. I feeling good. The weather's kind of quite nice. So we're all looking tanned and
You're looking proper festival.
Hey, good a day he is, isn't he? Yeah, you can tell he's been to the Isle of Wight.
yeah,
I
exactly.
always think he looks like he's in a baby's cot when he sits there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I should really.
That's just one of his fetishes.
blur it. If I put a background on, it's got like a really weird blur to it. So
Yeah, cool.
no.
Mate, I don't know how much you've heard at the start of the show. We're just literally talking about, obviously, the non-incomings and what could be potentially going on. But I just want to try. Let's get your thoughts before we go any further of what you feel.
I thought
Crossroads that we're at.
30, by the way. I'm really sorry. I've just realised it was 9 o'clock. Oh, bloody.
That's
Okay.
all right.
My thoughts on like what's happening with the transfer market. Yeah. So I think I'm not. There's a lot of fans who are getting really worried and really concerned about it. But I've looked at previous PIF summer transfer windows, and we do tend to do a lot of business in July and August. Big business comes through in August, a lot of it, like with Isaac and players like that. Botman was a July signing, so I'm not too worried. Some of the players we've missed out on, apart from Mbermo, who I thought would have been perfect, a lot of them I haven't really been too fussed about. I'm not that worried about João Pedro. I think he's a decent player. Scored 5 goals from open play in 30 games last season, so he's and 1 or 2 assists. Elanga, yeah, I would, if Elanga comes, I'd be happy. But again, if that's not to be, it's not to be. We just and Delat would have been good as well. But I'm not getting too worried. I think there's obviously a process. We've got to stick behind what we're doing, and I do think we'll get at least 3 first team signings in, maybe 4. So
You're looking forward to that £20 note that you're going to get from Amri.
Yeah, from Amri. He said any first team
That's in the bank, that already.
Yeah, I'm already planning how to spend it.
Steve, if you could hear me, mate, put your thumbs up.
I would like Tyler.
Cool.
Well, I'm starting to gravitate towards Tyler Dibbling now at the right price because I think we've.
Oh, shut up, Derek, man. Honestly, he's been a right wet plug here tonight. He's just on 21, that fella.
Yeah, he's 19.
The Piff's telling us he doesn't want top young English talent. No,
he wants them all from abroad, doesn't he? But no, I think Dibbling is a good. He's a good prospect. He would need a lot of Eddie Howe work, so he's not as ready-made as Elanga. But I just think
what I'm saying to that is, listen, if we're bringing Tyler Dibbling in as a prospect, smashing. Yeah. But with this window, we don't need prospects. We need the real I am, the finished article, who walks straight into that first team and knocks current first teamers onto the bench.
Yeah.
That's where we need to be, because with the schedule we've got, we're going to need to rotate, we're going to get injuries, we're going to get suspensions. So getting project players is not the answer. Personally, what I've seen at Cordero, he looks a lot better than what Dibbling looks, and we've got him already. Why just don't send him on loan?
He's only played at under 19 and League 2 or whatever it's called, the second.
Yeah, but he's played.
Bundesliga. But I don't know. I think I agree with you in one way. What I don't want to see, and what you would like to see, is us go and sign someone who's nearly 30, like Bowen, for about 85, 90 million, lump all the money on that and then get tied up in PSR knots
Yeah.
again for the next couple of windows.
Proper shit idea, that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll take him all day.
I think Bowen's a brilliant player, but I just think at times,
Different level then.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I mean, like I say, for me, somebody who's been tried and tested, for me, probably the best European side as I look now, and yet he's only really had a bit part is Harvey Elliott. He can play on that right hand side. He works very hard, very similar ilk. If you look at him and with a better high end, I must admit, than Murphy. Can play in the number 10 slot as well if you want somebody in that 10 veil. I think he's a really good all rounder, and he's still got game to improve yet. So
for 14, though, isn't he?
He is. He isn't the biggest player in the world, but like I said, I've seen big players get bounced. Exactly the same. It doesn't, for me, stature. It's whether you're clever with your feet. And I think Harvey Elliott, and like I say, he's proved in the past for Liverpool, which isn't an easy squad to get into. And I think the biggest problem with Liverpool, the same as a lot of big clubs, is they have a lot to. You're not going to take Salah out the side for Harvey Elliott. So.
No.
I think you've got to look where horses are on the course, and for me, you've got longevity with Harvey Elliott. You've got somebody you can mould into the system. He's already given me in the Euros, the under-21s, a head sight into what he could become. He's a bloody good finisher up top as well, and I think if he had a run of games, I think he could be. And you think of cost, 40 million with a buyback clause. That's what Liverpool would accept. Or 50 million outright. Well, 50 plus add-ons outright. So for me, you've got somebody who's Prem proven, not longevity in the Premier League. But he is Prem proven.
He played 18 games last season. He got 1 goal, didn't he, and 2 assists.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, are you going to take more responsibility in a team that have got quality players around you? And again, it depends on what the gaffer's asked him to do. Because this is something that we often forget, that every player on the park gets touted with a job and a role to do for the rest of the team. Now, if he's been told to lay the ball off into positions and rather than take the shot, I don't know. But we all know from what we've seen, he can finish in front of goal. Steve, welcome on board, lad. I haven't seen you for a while. Nice to see you back in this pre-season chat. What's your thoughts on on what you've heard, Rumourville, and how do you feel where we are at the moment regarding the transfers? Steve, you're on mute, dude. I can't hear you.
Can you even breathe?
No, that's Win.
Oh, is that Win?
That's Darth Vader.
That's not on the cast.
Win's fallen.
Are you there? No, can't hear you, Steve.
Turn your mic on, Steve.
Yeah, try and get yourself sorted, dude, in the background, and I'll and come back to us.
Just a quick point there, Gary, on something that was said. I think we need more than 3 players. It was I can't remember who mentioned it, but saying that we needed 3 players.
Minimum 3. We need 4 or 5.
We need 4 or 5, 5 minutes, 5 basically.
Yeah, I said it from the outset, Bowkey. We are. For what we've got in front of us now, we need 5 players for strength. And it's it's fact. You are going to get a couple of injuries throughout the season. No team goes without injuries, so it is fact on that. But this next question from Team Season pulls me into the next topic of conversation. If I'm honest with you, have you seen the new name for the DOF today? The guy who left Arsenal. Now. I'm not going to go through this new guy because if you look a couple of weeks back, me and the Mighty Win did a whole show literally on the 3 goals. The 3 guys mentioned the potential CEO and the potential 2 DOFs that were in for Mitchell's job. But the question I want to ask you guys that and the noise that's now coming out of Mitchell's exit. I can hear you now, Steve. What I can't understand is where Mitchell was going with his mentality when he came into Eddie Howe's dressing room in front of the lads to introduce himself. And by all accounts, it was, I have always gone in my when I'm going to meet somebody in my way, if you like, and I've never met before, I always think of the 312s. 12 inches of my face, 12 words said, and the first 12 steps I take towards them. I'm either going to be a positive or I'm going to be a negative impact on the person that I'm talking to. Apparently, his words as he walked into the dressing room in front, well, it wasn't the dressing room, it was the training area, was that he wanted the players to be took on a journey with him, not with Eddie Howe, didn't mention Eddie Howe. It seemed as if there was eyes going across the room looking at each other from players that have obviously been took on a certain journey with Eddie and the team. It seemed as though what Mitchell wanted to do was potentially take these guys down a totally different avenue. Steve, I'm gonna put you on mute, mate, because all we get is background noise. So literally from that, it's a case of, I think his exit was coming, whether it was now or whether it was a bit further down the line. I don't think, from what I'm reading now of his journey from the start to where we finished, 351 days, I think he's been in tenure. Done a lot of work in the background regarding the academy and the girls' team. We know that. And apparently he had certain targets that he'd laid down for Eddie, but didn't really give any feedback on the way these targets would fit into the Eddie plan. It was just names that he believes would turn out to be good players. Boki, your thoughts on the discussion with Mitchell leaving?
To be fair, the more you read into it, I think the more it seems the best decision for everybody. As you see, a director of football has to be the person who has chose the manager, is the big issue we've got. So while you've got Eddie there, you're never going to get a director of football in who's going to be able to control the club as such, because Eddie, right or wrong, won't allow it. And I think the guy's got the right to do that because of what he's done for the club. But Mitch, I mean, you can't have somebody going in and doing that with if that is what happened on the first day, and he's went in and said that, you can kind of get Eddie's point that, he's been working with these players, he understands the players, he's got great relationship with them. That's obvious to everybody, and you can't have somebody going in sort of trying to rock the apple cart and saying, look, I'm sort of, you're coming on a journey with me now. Forget about Eddie. I think if it had been me personally, as you see, you've got to think about things, and I would be going in and saying, you've been on a great journey with Eddie. What I want to do is enhance that and make things better. So we'll all work together. We'll come together as a team. Eddie's obviously the manager, and I'm here to sort of help Eddie get the players and the right players that he wants. Whereas it seems Mitchell just went in and said, forget about Eddie, I'm just going to do what I want, sort of thing.
Yeah, apparently, again, I don't think it was the comments. I mean, obviously, it would make Eddie uncomfortable listening to what Mitchell had said, but apparently it was what the players said post-introduction to Eddie, obviously, maybe on the training ground or what, because he was talking about bringing, obviously, his own staff in, and we saw that with the likes of James Bunce. And apparently there was a couple of members of the backroom staff he also tried to embody into the Newcastle grade. So I don't know whether this is just hearsay and people just throwing stuff out there. I've read quite a bit about this, but it was a player's reaction apparently that started the turmoil between Eddie Howe and Mitchell. None of the players had respect for him for saying what he said. Apparently, again, this is I'm only surmising what I've read. It could be embellishment, obviously. Jamie, your thoughts?
I think what you've got is a situation where everything we've done in the last few years has been because of the way Eddie Howe's got that team performing. He's got the best out of the old Bruce players, the best out of the low key players we brought in, like Dan Burn and Nick Pope, and he's got the best out of some pretty well found signings like Bruno and Easy. And because of that, he's untouchable practically here. So you need to do it the right way around. You need to get in who you're going to have in as a chief executive. And then he kind of needs to get a director of football that'll work with Eddie Howe, because they sprung Mitchell on him at like 12 hours notice or something, didn't it? And
Well,
that's the
apparently
position
Mitchell had
Eddie
been in
Howe's
the
put
background for
himself.
2 weeks prior, Jamie.
Eh? Sorry?
I believe Mitchell was working in the background 2 weeks before the announcement.
Yeah, and Eddie Howe only knew sort of day before something, didn't he? So
Yeah, I
like,
mean, I find that strange, though, don't you? That you've got a guy working in the background, obviously couldn't come forward and announce it at the club because of the current situation with
Yeah.
Ashworth. And Eddie Howe didn't know anything about it.
the garden leave. Well,
But
for whatever reason, it hasn't worked.
is that not because Mitchell was thick as thieves with Darren Eales,
Yes.
Could be.
as opposed to Eddie Howe?
Well, it was Darren Eales who obviously brought him in, wasn't it? So it was.
Yeah, and it was Darren Eales who was instrumental in I mean, okay, she was sort of architect of her own downfall to a degree, but it was Darren Eales who said, "Look, we need to get rid of her because she's going to bankrupt me."
Well, also she couldn't maintain being a co-owner because she didn't have the funds to keep in the shares. But I think you need that. You just need the chief exec in, then the sporting director's just got to keep things ticking over, hasn't he? He's got to keep the youth project going, put the right people in charge of the right places. Ashworth made a start on it and sorted it all out, and I think we've got some good people at the club. You mentioned Bunce, that was probably Mitchell's biggest success, getting him in.
Absolutely.
The way the injuries went down last year. So hopefully we can take all the best bits of having a different sporting director every year. But as long as we've got how doing that with
Why
the
not?
first team,
Take all the best
you know,
ideas.
at the end of the day, it's pretty much just a suit.
Well,
You know,
well,
the
apparently,
two-two
Yeah,
negotiations,
apparently the
but-
demise of Ashworth. I mean, obviously the Man United links were obviously. I think that was imminent that it's going to get done. Let me just put this on the screen. Thanks, Michael McIntyre, for your £3 super chat. A post-it note with the text, "I'll be back," appearing on it. There you go.
Well, again, the super win conspiracy, PIF, and all that, not backing Eddie. It's. I think it's pretty significant that he's went to Saudi to work over there.
Yeah.
So he's there in reserve any time they want him.
Yeah, well, like I say,
And I don't think that will have been lost on Eddie.
No, well, again, what we've got to thank Ashworth for is obviously finding Tonali, but apparently that was his demise, knowing when that comeback that Tonali was facing a ban, and obviously what the last nail in the coffin was obviously the linked messages with Man U. Go on then, Win. Give us your thoughts on.
Well,
Mitchell
have we got Steve's sound yet?
Go on, talk, Steve.
Should have, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hallelujah.
My daughter has been messing about with my wiring, so something was plugged in the wrong place.
Okay, mate. No worries. Come on, we'll get to Steve in a minute, Win. Just keep going with this one, and then Stevie can join up with where we're missing.
Well, what one about sporting director Edu from Arsenal? If you talk to any of
not
the
Edu.
Arsenal,
Hold on, Edu.
yeah, that's who we're being linked with from Arsenal.
Someone else.
Put that
Aito,
from me
not
out.
Edu. We've been linked with Aito, who worked under Edu at Arsenal.
Similar name. Edu.
He's still at Arsenal, isn't he?
The two
Who?
Eddies. Three Eddies.
Aito. No, he walked
Edu.
out of Arsenal. He left. He left his position. Anyway, but we were talking about Paul Mitchell, and
And then you turned it into an habit.
Yeah. Well, we got on to Paul Mitchell because somebody put in the chat about the replacement.
yeah.
But I wouldn't go anywhere near Edu because he had
It's not
exactly
Edu.
Yeah, well, I realise that now. Yeah, okay. Paul Mitchell, for me, signed his own death warrant when he basically, I think he gambled on Eddie not doing what he did, and so did Darren Neals. And when he did, it was very apparent for me the last day of the season there, when Eddie was straight on the pitch when the chairman was kicking the ball, arm around the shoulder, right, it's up to you now, make your mind up, this is it, take your pick, because if you're backing him, I am Ofsky. And I've got no doubt in my mind at all about that. Got no proof whatever, good feeling, but that's what happened then, and they thought, best not, because then there would have been ructions on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. Like I say, and just to point out that there's somebody who was saying about he doesn't rate the guy from Arsenal, and he wanted the former Real Madrid guy to be our CEO. This is for the DOF, Aaron. So he's not coming in as a CEO; he's coming in as the DOF. And like I say, anybody that hasn't seen it, me and Win did do an in-depth look at the Arsenal Forest guy and the lad who potentially could come in, Darren Neal's place, the CEO. So,
well, my views remain the same as I said in the bit that we did, which are right now we don't need a DOF. We need a head of scouting or whatever. Maybe somebody to, if you don't trust Nixon and Andy Howe, bring in somebody on the recruitment side who works under Eddie. But until such time as Eddie flees the nest, he's got to be top dog. And I don't think he'll put up with anything less.
Well, he's earned it, hasn't he, really?
Of course he's earned it.
But we've got there seems to be a section of the fans, particularly in some chat groups we're in, that sympathise with Mitchell, take Mitchell's side on stuff, and
well, good luck to them.
But lads,
they want Mitchell in, kind of thing.
Is it the best thing for the club not to have a DOF?
The best thing for the club right now is to have Eddie Howe.
People just seem to ascribe whatever they want to whatever suits their argument. Like they'll see, such and such was responsible for getting the fee for Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah.
Like Juventus were responsible for giving you the money for Lloyd Kelly. You can't make them have him. Yeah. Like they just, it was Dan Ashworth who brought Tenali in. No, it wasn't. It was Andy Howe.
And by the way, Eddie Howe was responsible for getting Kelly, who got on a free and were able to sell for 20 million.
But also, Eddie's come out and said about Tenali, hasn't he? He said he fell in love with him during a scouting trip. So he obviously knew about him, wasn't he?
He knew about
of course
it.
He did.
Absolutely. That's what I said. It's obviously a name that was pushed forward for the rest to go and get involved with, wasn't it? It is. DX, go on then. Give us your point of view on the Mitchell saga.
Well, I just think the way he came in, what I'll say is with Dan Ashworth, like at Brighton and Hove Albion, they used to call him Clipboard Ashworth because you didn't see him much. And when he was in the videos, he was on his clipboard and on the training ground in the background on his own. But what I liked about Ashworth, and maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's just the way things played out, but the signings we made, Botman maybe is slightly different, but the rest of the signings we made while Ashworth was at the club seemed like they were done behind closed doors. Quite the Isak thing happened quickly and all this. Every Mitchell player that we were linked with, it seemed like it might have been bad luck. It might have been, what's his name, Parish at Palace or whatever. But everything seemed like it was every bid is out there on the table. And I don't know if that was just coincidence or what, but I felt like he was a director who's got his feathers out. And I wasn't sure. I'm not sure I want the director to be like that. I want him to be in the background, doing the business, getting the deals done, and let Eddie be the one who's going out and facing the media. So, yeah, that's nice, Michael McIntyre.
Thank you, Michael, again. Good to see you back, Win. Tune. Well done, buddy.
Yeah, that's kind of what, because you don't hear, what was the name of the Liverpool director, the one who was there for like 10 years?
Edwards.
I don't remember him coming out too much and doing these making these big statements and saying,
no,
we need to, this is, this is not fit for purpose, which he didn't really clarify very, very well. And people have put their own definition on that, saying the signings were terrible, but they weren't, were they? They were all pretty good signings. What he was
What all brilliant signings.
what he was trying to refer to probably was we weren't selling any players. But the problem is when PIF came in, who was sellable? What sellable assets did we have? We had ASM. Wilson was injured when they took over, or got injured 2 weeks later or something. And you didn't really have anyone else at the time. Joe Linton was a bust, so there wasn't an abundance of players who could have gone right. We'll sell all of them, 200 million, like Chelsea can, and that will even up the books. Like all of our sellable assets now, apart from Joe Linton, that are worth any kind of money, are the ones that we've signed, and Miley as well, are the ones that we've signed since PIF took over. So I think his comment was a bit naive and a bit sort of blinkered to say something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's probably had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's been quite successful at Monaco, RB, the Red Bull, and obviously wherever he's been, he's had success. And I think, like I said, I was a massive fan and a lot of respect and time from his background, from where he'd been to where he got to. And I thought he was going to be a beam of light. I really did, and potentially could carry us down this lovely, venture and create some worldies that we'd never heard of, especially from the Asian market, as we've seen at his Tottenham days. And that for me was the highlight, because it's the part of the market that we really haven't dipped our toes in. So I just feel, like I say, the respect that I had from him seems to have gone. I just want to ask you guys, can you guys hear me okay? Because there's people in the chat saying that my mic's low. Yeah? I have turned it up a little bit more, so apologies if I was a little bit low. So Stevie, obviously you've had some technical issues. It seems to be our problem always on here, where one of us always seem to have hearing or speech problems. So now we can hear you and we can see you. What was your views then? Let's go from the start. Try and make it brief, Steve, because I've got quite a few to get through tonight.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the transfer window? What's your feelings on Mitchell leaving?
Well, my thing on Mitchell is he didn't seem to do much, considering the pay packet he's earned. As the gentleman to the left of me said, about fluttering his feathers, he's a bit of a peacock. Everything was put in the press, everything was out there. Like you said years ago, you're a director of football, you wouldn't hear from him. They'd be working behind the scenes, working with the manager, looking after what the manager needs and get on with it. But he always seemed to be out there, his name and everything, and he just didn't seem to do the job that we needed him to do. He should have been ready for the summer. For buying players, and every player we're looking to buy is going to someone else. All the rumours about getting Gay again, he could be going elsewhere. Liverpool might be interested. The Joey Pedro, going to Chelsea. Too much of it was put in the press. Too much was out there, rumours, and a lot of our deals should be doing on the quiet. We seem to do better deals on the quiet than we do when it's out in the press. And I think if we do buy any players this year, this summer, I think it will be players that most people maybe don't know in this country. We'll end up going abroad and picking up little players, 20, 30 million, maybe a bit more. Because at the moment, every time we go for a player that's worth something, we're getting priced out. And that's our problem, and it's going to be our problem for a while. As someone said, that PIF tax, everyone seems to think we've got the money, but we haven't. There's only so much we can spend on a player.
Okay.
And the thing is, when we need 5 or 6 players, there's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. I need to address something in a second, but I just want to finish your point on the Mitchell saga, and then obviously I want to just address something. Carry on.
I think we've had a major problem with director of football, and I think Eddie Howe, if he's going to stay as manager for the next 2-3 years or whatever, I think the board needs to be speaking to him and saying, right, who would you like to see? Who would you want to be working with on the job? So he needs to have someone that's going to listen to him rather than going behind his back. We don't need director of football going behind a manager's back trying to buy players. We've seen this happen with Newcastle years and years ago with Kevin Keegan, and it doesn't work. If you can't keep your manager happy, how you expect to have the rest of the club to be happy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Team season. I thought you were talking about Newcastle. So far, Gary, I've seen an anti-Mitchell moan. So should we let Eddie Howe run us into the ground? Let's file FFP again, shall we? There's a wolf hunt for Mitchell. I'm not hunting out anybody, mate. I am literally putting stuff out there that I've read and the potential reasons why Mitchell, who I admired really well before he got the Newcastle role, and unfortunately he hasn't given us anything apart from really giving us some talented youngsters and maybe giving the women a little bit of a push down the road a little bit. But to be fair, I get frustrated from players because the reasons why I've brought that one up per se.
Team season's a Mackham, man.
No, he's not. I mean, to be fair, he brings some really good stuff and some content into the chat. But the reasons why I've brought that up per se, and I'm not looking at team season and having a knock at him, but that moves me on to the Talk Sport saga when we talk about FFP issues. Because again, this is the Talk Sport, and I know people have their own opinions on Talk Sport, but it does come with a little bit of clout. And then Liverpool agree with a £120 million swap deal involving out of favour England star before Newcastle backtracked. And we were talking now, we're going back to obviously the Anthony Gordon saga, right? So in this talk, what they were talking about was obviously Anthony Gordon was on the fringes, or he was booked to medical while he was away on the Euro 24 duty in Leipzig for his £75 million agreed transfer. So there was the medical was booked, and then it goes on to talk about Amanda Staveley. And this is exactly what they've written. Former Newcastle co-owner Amanda Staveley, who played pivotal role in orchestrating the Saudi Public Investment Fund takeover in the Premier League back in 21, has since confirmed Liverpool's interest. The 52-year-old sold her shares in the Tyneside outfit weeks before. We know all that. So this is what she said. Had I left before the PSA deadline and we'd breached, then that would have been bad. It was very, very difficult, but I was determined to make sure Darren Eales had a clear runway. Well, obviously, it wasn't obvious the PSR issues that we had until she left, because obviously it was the following year that we had to sell the players and then scrap around to try and get the deal done with Anthony Gordon potentially going to Liverpool. And now there's still talk that Anthony Gordon could be, if Diaz goes from Liverpool, Anthony Gordon could be going the other way. So there's still interest there. And obviously we still know that there could be an 11th hour bid for Alexander Isak in the region of £120 million. And the one thing I was going to say to you guys, and was going to ask you guys, in my opinion, and again, this is only my opinion, I mean, I don't want to go back down to those days where we had to scrap around on the 30th of June to sell two promising youngsters. I want whoever's in charge of the coffers now, and I know it's still Darren Eales, to have some real close control on how much money we spend. But in my opinion, and again, I can only ever see Alexander Isak going to three clubs. Now, if you say about me, like bettering yourself, and I'm not talking about the finances, I'm talking about another club that could potentially give Alexander something different to what he can't get at Newcastle. And that's Real Madrid, Liverpool, and potentially either Barcelona or PSG with where they're going now. So that's, say, 4 clubs then.
I don't think Real Madrid would take him, though, would they? They've got Mbappe and Bellingham.
That's what I'm saying, But when you actually look at it deep down, Real Madrid, you might as well cross off because of what they've just spent out on Mbappe. So the only viable club out of the two is potentially PSG as well. But they aren't really going to, tear down any trees because they've only just started this journey. Is Liverpool. So for me, if Liverpool do come knocking on the in the 11th hour with 100 million plus maybe Jota, which has been rumoured, and if there's interest in Harvey Elliott, where do you think we land? Because to me, there ain't no other club can afford him.
I wouldn't get rid of Isak. I think Gordon. I think I'd be interested actually a slight nuance or a slight tangent on that, but we'll go back to that. So I just wanted to know: does anyone here think that maybe in hindsight, if we got rid of Gordon in that window and kept Minte and Anderson and not signed Vlachodimos, that might have worked out better, possibly for the squad? Or do you think Gordon's too much?
No.
Good,
I think
good
people vastly
question.
underrate Anthony Gordon's contribution.
Absolutely.
If you look at the run between Christmas and pretty much a League Cup final, his numbers were outrageous. He scored 2 crucial goals against Arsenal to get us to Wembley.
He did do that. Yeah.
Just tailed off after that Brighton red card, but played a massive role last season. Anderson, a lot of people's clamouring for him back, still doesn't get enough goals. Still not amongst the goals.
No.
Goals or assists.
He was good in the 21s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Again,
but then we wouldn't have Vlachodimos, would we? And we wouldn't have Vlachodimos, and we would have Anderson and Minte. So it's whether you look at the picture like that and say the squad would need less work, or whether you think Gordon is going to be back at his top level next season.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the Liverpool Echo has thrown out there that Isak wants out.
Isak wants to join Liverpool. Yeah,
well, they didn't say there what he wants to join Liverpool. Isak wants to leave was the message that the Liverpool Echo are throwing out there.
It could only be anything, couldn't it, Gary? Do you think? I couldn't imagine he would want to leave. He's not unsettled. So do you think it's just a financial thing where we can't afford to pay him what he thinks he's worth?
No, I mean, we were talking about yesterday. Listen, contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on these days. It only ever values the player. Because when the player's on a contract, there's a signing on fee if he moves anyway. But the player holds all the cards. If the player is unsettled, and we saw it with Anthony Gordon, whether that's true or not, but he certainly didn't highlight for me that he had a stellar performance like he did the season before. But that could be for anything. It could be just the fact that he's had too much football. He hasn't had a break in 2 years. So hopefully he comes back with a different mindset this term.
Well, Gary,
with Isak. Go on, sorry, mate.
With Isak, do we use this to our advantage? Do we go in and say £250,000 a year? A week, contract. But there's 180 million.
I was going to say that's what you're on, isn't it, Boki?
No, well, listen. I think more and more players are insisting on a buyout clause in their contracts, and obviously, if we are saying he's worth 180 million or 200 million, that has to be reflected in the contract they're offering him.
Yeah.
And I think it'll just be a matter of time before there's, and I've talked about this before, that it's a matter of time before there'll be a more or less fixed ratio between the wages you're on and what your buyout clause is. So that if you're on, and the figure I put in at the time was 400, 400 times your wages.
There's a lot more factors than that, though. There's his age is a factor as well, isn't it? Because we're entering a period where Alexander Isak is at prime value.
Yeah.
And you could even make a case, and I've said this before, if you look post-League Cup final, he scored in the first game back against Brentford, and then he was he wasn't great. His only goal, other than a penalty, was when we were already 4-0 up against Crystal Palace, and you can look that up.
And he
And
wasn't good in that game either, by the way.
I think it was because of the groin injury, wasn't it? But
Yeah,
you
I
could
think
make a case
That's what they put
if
it
you
down to.
knew that Alexander Isak was going to play like that all the next season, you might say 120 million quid doesn't sound so bad. But I don't think that is the case. I think a player who can score 20 plus goals in the Premier League in consecutive seasons is like rock and horse shit.
Absolutely.
And you need to keep him. I think
Absolutely.
do not sell him at all costs. Give him that 250 grand. Because if
Exactly.
you can just extend his contract, keep him here for another 2 years, he doesn't become a commodity that people will spend that money on. Because once he's pushing towards
But
30,
the rumor,
Even give him 250 plus add-ons.
Yeah.
You know, Champions League qualification, 10 million, 20 million, whatever. Because if we get it, we can afford to pay it.
Yeah.
The other question is, do you keep Isak for 180 million, or do you sell him for 180 million and buy two 90 million pound strikers?
but are they going to give you the 20 plus goals? That's what I said. It's, you know,
You're talking about you're then having to play two 90 million pound strikers. So you're talking about changing the system, da-di-da-di-da.
Well, I mean, I'm using it as an extreme.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you do that sort of to then have the cover in the squad?
But then who are the strikers that you
that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even our greatest striker of all time, Alan Shearer, never got that feat of two 20-goal seasons back to back.
I tell you who did, though, who you'd probably be able to pick up now for... You'd have to pay big wages, but you'd probably be able to pick him up for 80 million. Harry Kane.
Oh, Harry Kane.
Yeah.
He's 33.
He
is. But if you're going to get that for a couple of seasons, even,
would he come from Bayern? Do you think? I don't think.
I think he would.
Well, there's talk in the town that he's going back to Spurs.
Oh no, thank you.
No. I think he would come back to the Prem because he's after Alan's record.
That's how you could sell it.
Oh, yeah.
So in the Prem,
club where Alan.
And can you imagine him coming back, offering come back to the tour and break his record here? Wow.
Well, he was talking about it on the Match of the Day podcasts a few times. He has. You know, will he come back? Will he come and try and break my record?
Stay in Germany.
Right now, he's still young enough.
Yano's saying that he can't believe that I didn't include Man City. Now, do you think Isak's going to go and compete with Haaland? That's my question.
No.
Nah, not a chance.
He
They've
won't.
also got Marmouche, so they don't need a striker.
Would you do a straight swap for Haaland?
Potentially, yeah.
And
that's the only reason.
As a question, would you do right now? Would you do a straight swap, Isak for Haaland?
Yeah, probably.
No.
Because
we don't get the ball into the box enough for me for the likes of Haaland to get into. I don't think you'd get the best out of Haaland the way we play football.
No.
But with that point, would Isak be a better fit for Man City, especially the way what's he called? Pep plays. And I think
Haaland's on a 10-year contract.
I'm going to say he's not going to. He's not going to move from Man City now. What is it? 9 years or somebody signed.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
20 years if he goes there.
Michael, Sammy, to be fair, he's got some really good stats. We did to him the other night.
Who's this guy?
And he comes back with like really good stats when it comes to finishing. But again, I think he's still got a hell of a lot to learn. And he's definitely, I believe, somebody we've been linked with. And he'd probably be one that you could have on the bench to come on there and would probably give you something a bit different. Right then, I suppose we better get on to the next subject because we've been on an hour and a quarter now. So next topic, and again, people look at this stuff and Newcastle have had to apologise with the video that came out yesterday. And to be fair, I love the top. I absolutely love the third strip. I know it's there's a lot of people out there that that are for it and against it. I think it's got a touch of class. The only thing I don't like is the badge on the shield. I'd have liked maybe the old traditional NUFC
Embroidered.
or even the NUFC logo. I know it's on the back of the neck, on the nape of the neck,
Just
where
on
the
that,
magpie
Gary,
was.
I don't know, did you clock some of the training gear that Sula and Isaac were wearing?
Yeah,
That badge on?
superb. Yeah,
That caught my eye. That's lovely stuff. That.
it's lovely, mate. I tell you what caught my eye as well, Jamie. I don't know whether you saw it. The saxonophist. That's a word to say at this time.
Saxophonist.
Saxonophist.
Saxophonist.
That's the one.
Saxophonist.
Saxophonist. Yeah,
It's easy
whatever.
for you to say.
The bloke who blows the trumpet. Anyway,
Johnny
Sam
Blue Hat.
Fender. Yeah, that's the one. Did you see his tracksuit? Mate, I tell you something now. If that comes on the market, it's awesome. That is old style.
Got the old shell suit.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's a shell suit, but you certainly wouldn't want to go any open fires with it. But it does look superb, I must admit. But anyway, Newcastle have had to apologise because obviously during the video there was a lad holding the old Rising Sun flag in the background, and obviously that's caused some concern. So obviously today they've actually taken the video down, and their response was, "We have been alerted to the appearance of a flag in our recent third kit launch video that could inadvertently cause offence. In response, we immediately removed the video from circulation and have taken steps to edit the visual from all future content."
The video is now back.
When was the Second World War again?
Yeah.
70 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. I think
when did you get them phones first, Eric?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional symbol of the Japan is used in various cultural contexts. However, it has also evoked strong negative emotions, including as many Asian countries, due to its association with the Japanese imperialism in the war crimes during World War II. And obviously, we're going to South Korea, which is obviously one of those countries where Japan obviously put the women into whorehouses, and obviously people's rights were abused for slavery and things like that. So maybe it was a bit of an oversight.
Eric, stop Googling flights to South Korea.
Maybe it was a little bit of an oversight on behalf of the filmmakers, and obviously those that I hadn't realised the political storm that it would kick up. And again, there was lots of talk on social media about the Dan Burn quote right at the end about the bacon. And apparently that's, again, I don't know whether it's rumourville, but evoked some clout from Steve Bruce, apparently. So watch that space. So as I've just been informed...
what was that then? I missed that.
It was on the show last night. You need to watch last night's show.
I watched last night's show.
It was right at the end.
I think people just want to think bad.
Yeah. I watched the video.
So
have you
right
not
at the
seen
end,
it in the video?
right at the end of the video, Dan Byrne makes the bacon quote, and like I say, I'm not gonna say it on here because I don't know. I don't want to upset anybody in the apple cart. So have a watch of the video, and right at the end, there's a quote from Dan Byrne that seems to have upset a few people. So going on to the next clip. I didn't realise the video's back up, Jamie. You've just said it's now back on the stream, and that's been omitted now, I'd imagine, because it was only one little snippet of it, wasn't it?
Check it out.
Yeah, it was a micro-millisecond in the voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it out and paste it with another visual, and it's back there. And I think, I would ask everyone in this group, I personally wouldn't have known that there was any negative connotation to that particular flag. And I think you could take most British people, most European people, and they wouldn't know that either. I think it's just an honest mistake.
Well, to be fair, you're absolutely right. I mean, when I watched the video, and I watched the video several times before I clipped it on the end of the show, and even though I'd seen, to me it was like a Newcastle fan from Japan had made a flag, which was very much like a Japanese style but you're right. I didn't have any connotations for it towards the World War II symbolism or anything like that. I didn't feel bad about it. It was, to me, it was part of the video, so it must have got the clearance for it to have gone on there. That's how I looked at it, because surely, as we do a tour of South Korea, they would have crossed all those bridges, but obviously not. Are you having a look at it now?
I'm trying to find it.
Right, okay. You'll have that. So a couple of so go on, mate.
We're playing Tottenham in South Korea, and Son will be playing for them. So we're going to be the baddies anyway. So we might as well embrace the role.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can say that. We are going to be anti wherever we go over there playing against
Hey,
Tottenham.
well, if anybody's going to have a sort of bad reaction to a bacon quote, surely it's going to be PIF.
Oh, bless. Right then, so a couple of links that we've been obviously linked with tonight. Still a lot of talk about Scalvini coming in as a defender. Apparently, Atalanta saying that they're not selling at any price, but still a lot of interest
We've
in
heard that
Scalvini.
before.
Yeah, so let's see what comes of that one. And obviously today we had another one come on board, and this is that Leonardo Balerdi, and he's one with it. I mean, obviously, I know DX went straight in to try and get Steve to give some insight into this lad. He's a lad that I hadn't heard much of, to be fair, and it was really interesting when I was doing a bit of digging on him. That there was a fan that went on hunger strike because of how poorly this lad was playing. There was a crucial game where he missed a penalty. He got sent off in one game after 30 minutes. He obviously lost his way a little bit. But under Zerbi, he seems to have found his feet and seems to be a half-decent player. Anybody got any thoughts on this centre back? I mean, like I say, Steve seems to think he's a decent player. Get him some decent ratings. Apart from one area which concerned me, and that was concentration.
Yeah.
He marked him quite poorly on his concentration. Now, for a defender, I would want my defence to be literally on their toes and looking to mop up any spillages. Quite a crucial and important role, dependent on Eddie's stat, with the way he's going to start the games. If he goes three at the back, or whether he goes with his nominated 4-3-3. I'm going to put the lad up on the screen. Now I just want to have a look at some of his stats. Like I say, he certainly doesn't come with any thunder. Like I said, Balerdi doesn't fill me with any, he, through the middle here, he's in the sevens, high sixes. Obviously, game in September of last year where he was out injured. Not terribly on his injuries by all accounts. So I am going to put him up next to Fabian Schär. So let's see what we get when we put him up against Fabian Schär. So again, if you look at the type of player he is, contribution-wise, he seems to be he's not the same type of attacker. Well, we don't really expect that. His creativity is on the same par. His technical ability is on a par. Tackling, it seems to be Fabian Schär's better tackler. And it seems that they're neck and neck as a defender. So again, have we got a player of a similar ilk as Fabian Schär? Again, I don't know anything about this lad. Your thoughts, Bokeh? Oh, he's gone. Jamie, go on.
Yeah, Gary, I'll just be
Oh, go on, mate.
To be fair, I don't know the lad, but I think you're going to struggle to get somebody like Shaw. In that Shaw is quite an attacking defender, and these days you don't tend to get that as much. I think what we need is somebody who's just solid at the back. And when you're on about mentality and things, I think what we need to remember is what Shaw was like under well, for a few seasons where his head used to go at times. He wasn't really a thinking He wasn't really a thinking defender. I think we do need somebody at the back who thinks.
Well, I've just had a look. I'm going to put it up a bit. As you can see here, Bellerdi seems to be the kingpin in the three at the back, which, like I say, it seems as if Eddie Howe favoured that towards the end of last season. Again, he got to accommodate position for injuries with J7. So, again, where we had problems getting a like-for-like player in that midfield, it seems very much as though Eddie adopted a different style. Now, it seemed to work in certain games. It obviously failed in others to get the results. But as this lad plays in a three, do you think that gives him any more value to Eddie's, wanting him in the side?
I don't know if Eddie does want him, but yeah, I think I don't know. I know nothing about the player. That's the problem. So it's very hard to give.
Yeah, that's what I said. I've not really had any anything at all regarding this lad. You've got this on.
I've just got a quick look here. I tell you, there's some things that look good.
Yeah, his percentiles are high, aren't they?
89% percentage for passing attempted and 98% for completed passes. Successful take-ons, 98%. Now, do you lose in the defensive style? Well, according to that, he's in the top 89 for tackles and the top 86 for interceptions.
Yeah.
So it would appear not. And if that's what we're looking for, somebody who's going to pass out from the back or bring the ball out from the back as well, successful
Yeah, which is what he wants,
take-ons.
isn't it, Eddie? Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's looks to be pretty damn good, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I know nothing about him other than that. I've literally just looked that up now.
Yeah, I mean, BT's put on here in January 2019, Bellerdi agreed a 4.5-year contract with Borussia Dortmund, but moved on the following year to Marseille. So what was that all about? He seems to be a bit of a hot-headed character from where I can, from what I've watched and but you're absolutely right. He seems very athletic. He's certainly got a bit about him. Decent pace by the looks of it. Again, YouTube videos can make anybody look like Mbappe at the best times. So, Jamie, anything you want to add about this lad? If you've noticed anything in the background?
I think going on hunger strike because you don't like a player is a little bit of an attention seeker's thing to do.
Yeah.
That's the only takeaway from that.
Yeah, well, mate, I giggled when I put that in the chat. No, when I read it, it's like, standing in front of traffic because you want the oil to stop. It is a bit bonkers. But like I said, for me, it was a case of do we... again, this seems very much a Newcastle-esque thing, isn't it? Looking at players that you've never really heard of, and then they come in and become half-decent players.
That's the way, isn't it? If we can do that with a couple of guys and it frees us up to spend big money on
areas.
proven Premier League player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 35 million. I think if he is a bit of a baller, is a snip in today's market. But again, I don't know.
I think I'm coming more and more around to your way of thinking here, though, Gary. If we're not getting Pedro, Van Hecker.
Well, yeah. I mean, somebody now, a lad who obviously knows his European football is Foxy. Bellerdi decent on the ball, but he worries me every time I watch him. Overly aggressive and bramble boom song concentration vibes. There you go. Avoid, avoid with a yardstick.
Bramble boom song.
And I do respect Foxy's opinion.
An amalgamation of bramble and boom song. That's what we need.
Yeah, me too. I mean, when he said that, as soon as I read that, I'm thinking, you know what? Avert. So let's stay well clear of that one then.
Abort.
The Gahey thing's dead, isn't the water, isn't it? Liverpool seem like they're the ones who are going to get Gahey if he does move.
Do you remember Bramble under when Woodgate was playing with them as centre back? The two
It
of
was
them together.
Yeah.
To be
Listen,
fair,
I think Bramble got an awful lot of unjustified stick.
he did, but when Woodgate was
You know,
his
he
brain,
had a cock up in him every game, without a doubt.
no, but when Woodgate was his brain telling him how to defend, he was brilliant. He just
He had
couldn't
some
for himself.
excellent games for us.
Yeah, yeah.
He needed direction. I agree with you. But if I'm honest with you,
for a fat lad, he couldn't half move. The number of times he would do a bit like Dan Byrne. You know how Dan Byrne gets across to the wing and make a tackle that he's got no right to make. Bramble made a few of them.
Yeah,
But he would try these Hollywood passes, you know. He thought he was Beckenbauer and he wasn't.
Well, technically, he was a good player, though. He was good in the air, he was strong, quick, he was good with 2 feet. But he just had his brain, he didn't have a brain.
Yeah,
that was the problem. He just wasn't a thinker.
Yeah.
Plus, he got sent off in the 5-1, which was always a brilliant thing.
Exactly. I mean, the one thing for me, it's like one of them ships turning in the Suez Canal. Watching him play, you know, it was slow on the turn, but once he got going, he was a big unit to stop.
He was rapid.
Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't a worldie though, but like I say, he did need
Lord Arse, as we used to call him.
Lord Arse. Love it. And if what is on the Gay saga, obviously we all know that there was lots of talk about Wood with Canati going at the end of the season. He's refusing. Would they wait and talk to Gay for him to come on a free next season? Apparently not. Apparently they are really pushing now to get Gay signed, sealed and delivered by the end of this transfer window. And obviously, you know, that seems as though it's dead in the water, as you've rightly said. What was that, mate?
The ship has sailed on that one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Canati leaving Liverpool?
Yeah, he's not. He's refused a new contract, and he is going to be gone as a free agent at the end of the season. And a lot of the rumours that were going around was Liverpool and Crystal Palace. Well, not Crystal Palace, but Mark Gay, his agents, were talking about, as we lose one free, we get one free, and Gay would get a decent sign on for that. And I mean, you know, you got to think about how highly rated this lad is. You know, when you look at his metrics, ranked in the top 21% for ball recoveries over a 90-minute period, and in the top 20% for blocks. And in the top 22% for dribbles tackled, and you know, he's got a really impressive all-round game, Mark Gay. Again, that's why I think. Go on, mate.
Surely Crystal Palace get a say in this, because like you'd think if Liverpool say no, we're waiting until next summer, Crystal Palace are going to push for a sale, aren't they? And
that's exactly what's happened.
Might come in.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. I mean, Crystal Palace want to sell him ASAP because Mark Gay said he was more than happy, and this was one of the Crystal Palace fanzine was out there. Gay said he's not in any rush to go anywhere. He'd be happy to see his tenure out at Crystal Palace. Obviously, Crystal Palace then come on board. I mean, you know, it's common knowledge now that the shareholders wasn't happy when Mark Gay wasn't sold in January, because they saw that there was a 50 million bid on the table, and he'd only got, you know, a short-term contract when it come to it, and there was every chance that he could go for free. But like I say, I think there has been a little bit of a handshake behind the scenes between Crystal Palace and Gay, because it seems very much now that Liverpool have to pay for him, but it ain't obviously going to be the money that they wanted for us to pay, and again, for whatever reason that is, I don't know.
Well, my sources predict that this is what Mitchell said in January. That's why he wouldn't pay the money, because he says, "Oh no, we'll be able to get him cheaper in the summer because Liverpool are going to come in for him, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen." And Paul Mitchell had all this worked out, so that's why he refused to pay the money. Apparently, just what I've been told.
Excellent. Lee Ray's asking what's your thoughts on James McAteer from City. Yeah, it's McAtee, isn't it?
McAtee, I would rather have Harvey Elliott, I'll be honest.
I mean, it depends on where you want to play the lad. I mean, we know McAtee plays in that 10 slot very well, but he just seems to be a one position pony. I don't think that's Eddie Howe's mantra. If I'm honest with you, I think he likes a player that can play several roles. I'm not saying McAtee couldn't. I like him. I must admit.
Looking at the under-21s, apart from McAtee, I thought Hutchinson looked brilliant. Albeit, he's on the left wing, obviously.
I know he.
I thought he looked really good. And I tell you who else, that Jay Mansfield.
Mansfield.
He looked the part to me as well.
Do you not mean Stansfield? Do you not mean
Stansfield?
What, the blues player?
Yeah.
Bloody awful. Absolutely awful. I thought he was.
He wasn't awful for England.
Well, I mean, I didn't see much of him, if I'm honest with you. Listen, you're talking about levels, aren't we?
Proper workhorse, proper Eddie type player.
Yeah, but he doesn't get he's not a natural finisher in front of goal.
Well, he scored a few.
I appreciate that, but you look at some of his positioning against Germany in the final. He was a bit flat-footed in certain areas. I mean, he could have got on the end of a couple if he was on his toes more.
Towards the end, he was knackered.
Well, so why wasn't everybody else knackered?
You know what I mean? I think you have to rate players as well of the chances that they missed. And he hit just about everything that he scored. Every shot he had, he just about scored. He didn't have misses. And if you're a top-class striker, you're going to have misses as well. That's that.
Never afraid to miss. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have to have the misses in there that show that you're in the right position all the time.
Yeah, but that was my concern with Stansfield, and I think that goes a little bit against him. Is because he is on his heels a little bit more, and like I say, there was a couple of positions that he should have been in the final that he failed to get on the end of. So again, you've got to ask yourself: is he better than Asula? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, when I watched Asula in the under-21s, I thought he looked really sharp. Again, working alongside his own age group. Yes, he scored a couple. Was it two in three? But I don't think I don't think Stansfield. Yeah, and 2 assists. I don't think Stansfield would do anything. I mean, listen, he's done well. Whether he can do anything for Birmingham in the Championship, let's see. But he certainly couldn't get in the team in League One, so I'm not sure. Oscar Bob, Geordie Dan saying, has been left on the bench a couple of times. Now, obviously, he's coming in off the left, Oscar Bob. I like Oscar Bob. But would he be any good on the right wing? I like him.
Bit of a paradigm for a girl, isn't it?
Oh, bless you. Anyway, is there anything else from you lovely people that you want to talk about before we disappear?
I don't know. So Steve hasn't had a lot to say. Have you got? What's your thoughts, Steve?
I just hope that we don't end up scrambling for players before the window closes, because we just seem to do it all the time when we're desperate. We need to get it sorted because we still don't know if Longstaff's going, Callum's gone. There's a few other players that could go. Nothing's been finalised yet, and I'm panicking at the moment that we're going to have enough players to do this season, especially with our Champions League. Because at the moment we have not got a side nowhere near to compete. We were lucky, I think, 2 seasons ago when we had all those injuries, but our teams seem to do really well with the players we got. The Cells was absolutely fantastic that season, but I don't think we could do that again without extra players.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
I think we'll get Elanga. I've got a funny feeling, and I think we'll probably end up getting this Calvert-Lewin.
I hope we get Elanga because I have liked him for a couple of years, and I think with Isak playing with him together up front, play for Sweden together, And as you said, Calvert-Lewin might be worth it. Get him on a free.
And I think Trafford will be the other one that we'll definitely
Yeah.
certainly get.
But
Yeah.
saying about Trafford,
Yeah,
great.
but
okay.
if that's our window, I'll not be happy. You'll hear me. That happy clapper
No,
sign
we'll-
will be straight down.
We want
Trafford,
to back
you
him.
know, okay, bring a keeper in. But we need to get rid of some of the other keepers then, because you got people
Yeah,
there.
well, I think
And
Ruddy-
is Ruddy supposed to be going on to the coaching staff? Is that one of the reasons he was brought
Well,
in?
but by the way, that was interesting. Yesterday, I think it was, that Callum is no longer listed as a
No.
Newcastle player.
Yeah,
Well,
we knew that.
Yeah.
So
His days
that was where I
Something.
was going to come on to right at the end, because obviously now there is a number of memorable numbers that's come up for tabs, especially the number 9 shirt. A lot of people in social media worlds are saying that Isaac should take the 9 shirt.
Doesn't want it apparently.
Yeah, he stays with the 14. That's what he said from the outset, wasn't it? He doesn't want the number 9 shirt. So whoever comes in as our second string striker is going to get a really iconic number. So
Yeah, I mean,
interesting,
Yeah.
unless they
Yeah.
keep it on the shelf.
DLC you want, isn't it, Win?
yeah. I think didn't Dwight Gale had the number 9, didn't he, for a little bit? So
Dwight Gale had it, yeah.
we had a few
Yeah.
sort of low.
Weighs too heavy on a lot of players, though, mate, the number 9 at Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, I think Isaac should wear it for a season at least, just to to put himself in the history books of one of the number 9s. If you
Hey, I tell you what, let's finish on a quiz.
Here we go.
Number 9s who've worn the shirt while Newcastle have been in the Prem.
Oh, Cisse.
Cisse, go on.
Yeah.
Andy Cole.
Shearer.
Cole.
Ferdinand.
Shearer,
Gale.
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand,
Yeah, Gale.
Martins.
Yeah, Martin's a good one. Andy Carroll.
Yeah.
Martins, Carroll, yeah.
Beardsley?
No, he was
No.
No, mate.
No,
Cole?
not yes.
What did Cole have?
9. Nicole had.
Joe Linton.
Ah,
Yeah,
Big
Jordan.
Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, 7.
Callum
Yeah.
Wilson, of course.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson,
Um,
didn't he?
Who else before that?
You're missing,
Loic Remy.
you're missing 2.
Kitson never wore it, did he?
No.
No.
Missing 2.
Yeah, it's Remy right.
Oh, Kitson, no Kitson.
Oh,
Rondon.
Rondon.
Denver Ball.
Rondon, yes, that's one of them.
and
Rondon,
Ball.
One
yeah.
to go.
Mitrovic.
I was going to give you the clue there. I was going to say he's still playing today, but that's Rondon.
Mitrovic.
And one more, no.
Have you got Dwight Gale?
Baldwin.
Was I Denver Bar?
No.
Didn't Denver Bar?
Denver
No.
Ball.
No,
Carroll?
No.
no. Yeah, we've got
No.
Carroll.
I got Carroll.
Viduka? No, not Viduka.
No.
Owen? No, did he wear 9? No, he didn't.
One to go. Famous for his somersaults.
Oh, Martin. But we said Martin.
Martinez.
Obafemi Martins, that's the one. That's
We
the
said
lot.
him ages ago.
I'm gonna say
Bloody hell.
I never heard you say Martins.
Oberfem.
Obafemi Martins.
Very inconsistent.
Very good.
Yeah, in this guy.
And literally, just to end the show, because somebody's asked about PSR finishing at the end of next season. It doesn't, apparently.
No.
Oh,
I don't know whether it's true, but apparently they've all agreed that it's going to be on
Right.
for at
It
least
runs for
another
next season. It only runs for next season. That's true, but they'll put
They're-
some in
They're adjusting it the season after, but it's still
Yeah.
going to be. There is still going to be
to
a
make it
PSR there.
legal.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, yeah. They're going to change the wording.
That
Anyway,
might be right. A couple of Man City cases, and I think people are getting a little bit pissed off at the way Chelsea are going on.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
more and more backlash.
Yeah, there is absolutely.
So I think you might see some changes over the next
Well,
year, but it's
well,
not written in
Eddie-
stone, is it?
Eddie Jordan, I know he's been a bit of a not liked us that much because of PIF and everything, but he did actually come out last week and actually said he doesn't like the way PSR has affected our club. He did actually back us for once, and he said PSR has not made us competitive enough.
I think
No,
the problem is, Stephen,
don't think there's any doubt about that.
The American owners just want to stick with what we've got.
That's the trouble.
Yeah.
That's the trouble.
Yeah.
And it would not surprise me at all if a Yank comes in and buys the Mackhams this season.
no. Well, the one lad who's given up his mantle, trying to think, at Crystal Palace, because they're going through this UEFA second club issue, aren't they? He sold his shares now, and he's on about he wants to buy a Premier League that he has no other links with other clubs to. And there was question whether it'd be Sunderland.
He was sniffing around
Peter Griffin that buys them.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He sold
And then
all his shares.
you've got Birmingham and Wrexham potentially coming up next season. Leeds have come up this season, American. You've got Sheffield United potentially coming up, American.
I'm going to end on this one. I want everybody to go and have a look at him because I think he's good. Foxy's saying John Arias for Fluminense, best player in the Club World Cup at right wing. There you go. Not seen him, don't know anything about him, but I am going to go and have a look now. I'm going to say ladies and gentlemen, ladies in the chat. And
I was
gentlemen
up
of the
till
panel.
5 o'clock this morning watching Man City get beat.
Oh, good lad.
Have you seen the result of tonight's match?
No?
Real Madrid 1, Juventus 0.
All right.
Interesting. Right then, boys, thank you ever so much. Boki, Jamie, the Mighty Win, DX, and Steve Rock the Tune. Thank you all for joining us, and thank everybody in the chat. Thanks, Michael, for your super chats, buddy. Very, very lovely. And I'm here tomorrow. Come and join me, 2:15, and I will have you. Well, any information that I've got, I'll talk about it. And obviously, if Mighty Win's available, then we may also see the man back. So
Might well
until
be back. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
like I said, let's see what happens. But until then, it's how we're the lads, lassies, and bairns. Thanks to all of the panel. Thanks to Viewerland. See you on the next one.
How are you, the lad?
Yes.